Right, good evening everyone. A warm welcome, both literally and metaphorically, to particularly members of the public, other members and members of the executive and indeed officers tonight. And I'll just go through the emergency evacuation announcement, which we're starting to become quite familiar with. But should we be required to evacuate the building, would you please leave the building via the entrance doors to the hall, continue straight on and exit the building via the double doors on the right to the car park, which is the assembly point. Please do not delay your evacuation to collect any belongings. Please do not return to the building until given permission to do so by council staff. And please note that the meeting is being audio recorded. Please switch off mobile phones or turn them to silent, please. Members, there are 4 microphones. I think there's probably only 3 now, but anyway, 4 microphones on the tables for use during the meeting. When I invite you to speak, please wait until there is a microphone in front of you before speaking, as microphones are needed for the hearing loop and for the audio recording. Please, where possible, assist in passing microphones to each other and use the hand gel and antibacterial wipes on the tables if you do touch the microphones. Members, voting will be done on a show of hands in line with the Constitution. I will ask for a show of hands for and against recommendations and will then ask for any abstentions. So here we go. Take item agenda number 1, and apologies for absence. And we've received apologies from Councillor Simon Smith, who is in isolation at the present time, and Councillor Webb. Moving on to agenda item number 2, non-members attending. Looking around, we've got Councillors James Gooding, Councillors Judy Gooding, Councillor Eileen Gadsden, and who else have we got? Councillor Laureen Shaw, Councillor Foster. Have I missed anyone? Right, no. Moving then on to item number 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of June. Members, are the minutes agreed? Thank you. Item number 4, to receive declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, members, on the agenda? No. Questions on notice from councillors, agenda item number 5, and there are none. And matters referred to the executive and reports from other committees, item 6, there are none. Which takes us on to item 7, the Association of South Essex Local Authorities, ASELA, and the formalisation of a joint committee. Members, you have a paper in front of you which actually sets out, I think, extremely well the next stage in the development of ASELA. I have to say that when I became leader, which was about this time last year, ASELA for me was an organisation that I recognised was at a stage, an evolutionary stage, where we needed to improve transparency, ensure that we were communicating what ASELA was doing to certainly members, MPs and members of the public, recognising that the product that ASELA is trying to deliver is a sound product. But we did need to enhance communication, issue agendas. Now, ASELA was formed under a memorandum of understanding in January 2018. And it is a collaboration between the South Essex local authorities, the 6 South Essex local authorities and Essex County Council. And it is about delivering and improving the quality of life for South Essex residents by realising the potential, the economic potential, to realise opportunities in terms of jobs, the economy, as I say, in South Essex, and to highlight for both leisure and for jobs for homeowners the economic potential that we have here. As I said, my concern this time last year was that there was a perception, and I do stress the word perception, that meetings were being held in some degree of secrecy. They weren't in fact in secrecy, but they used to be held, and then people would come out of those meetings and no one would really know what Acela was all about. What happened around the time that I became leader, but not, I think, because of me becoming leader, was there was a growth bid that was submitted on the welcome Councillor Eves, and we will log you as a visiting member. Thank you very much indeed. What happened on the 31st of July last year, 2020, was a growth bid, and a prospectus was issued and submitted to government, central government. I have to say it was around the time that local government reform was being talked about, and I think the whole agenda got rather muddied in terms of local government reform and what Acela was trying to achieve. Local government reform, so far as central government is concerned, fell off the agenda because it has been deferred, postponed, but certainly it's certainly not number one item for the government at the present time in the way it was being portrayed. But recognising the need for Acela to move on, the joint committee idea, which is a formal system of governance, was born because it was recognised that for Acela to survive and move on from the collaborative approach, for it to have a much more formal approach with published agendas, published minutes, a website, communication, for it to be able to have a funding stream, it was very, very important that there was a more formal arrangement. I have consistently said that the product that Acela is trying to deliver, I believe, is a good product. And there are 5 very clear, high-level strategic objectives set out within this paper and have been set out in other papers about what Acela is about. And the real emphasis moving forward will be about delivery. But the reality is that you can't deliver without having a formal governance system. And that is really what the Joint Committee is all about. So having really sort of introduced the report, I'm going to ask the Acting Managing Director, Angela Hutchings, just to put a little bit more meat on the bones in terms of where we are with Acela. Angela, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Orton. That's better. The 5 anchor programmes that form the body of work that Acela is now planning to deliver are explained in the report. They are a superfast digital infrastructure programme, a technical university for tertiary education and skills across South Essex, the South Essex Estuary Park, a green and blue infrastructure that covers 53,000 hectares of space across the entire sub-region. Infrastructure and housing around a place-based partnership with Homes England, and the potential investment of the Thames Freeport in the south of the county, and the bounce effect of that regeneration piece, and the impact therefore on the local economy, and the potential for taking and catalysing that investment to support communities to continue to develop an economy outside of London. The anchor programmes have now reached a state of maturity in where they are looking for further investment from the private and from the public sector. They have overlap and coalescence in terms of delivering a whole place-based solution. And so it's right now that the governance should follow to enable delivery of those programmes and the entire vision of the Acela prospectus. The Joint Committee is an established model for doing so. It enables authorities to maintain their individual sovereignty whilst coming together for a common purpose. They were permitted by statute and, as I say, are a common vehicle for this kind of opportunity. It's particularly relevant for a seller because what it does is it gives it accountability and transparency. When you're looking for investment, whether that's from the public sector or from the private sector, having that accountability enshrined is really important to ensure that investors can have security that the monies are being properly spent, and the public can be assured that the monies are being put towards the programmes that are being outlined. So the committee is proposed to be set up, and each of the seller authorities, including Essex County Council, will have a seat on that committee. The basic proposition is that it is one authority, one vote, and that as part of the sovereignty, the maintenance of sovereignty, no decision can be made in respect of Rochford District that Rochford District is not a party to. So this is no cessation of sovereignty on our part, and does not take away from us any of the decisions that we would make in the normal course of business. There's no delegation of other powers to this joint committee. It's there purely to oversee and provide accountability and scrutiny to the delivery of the 5 anchor programmes. Thank you, Councillor Wotton.
Thank you, Angela. And certainly Appendix 1 details the growth prospectus that was submitted last year. Appendix 2 sets out the Joint Committee Agreement and Constitution, proposed Constitution, and Appendix 3 sets out the direct benefits to Rochford, albeit I think it's actually very hard to do that piece of work, because actually it is the collective opportunities that a seller provides to South Essex. So with that, members, are there any questions? Councillor FD.
Thank you. Angela mentioned it in her last bit of her presentation. 7.6, practicalities of a seller joint committee, H, with scrutiny. Would that be our review? Because it says to use, it's proposed that scrutiny of a seller will take place for each partner council's existing process. That would be our review committee?
Yes, that's correct, yes. The committee itself provides a small overview function in relation to the administration of the programme, but the performance of the joint committee would be subject to the overview and scrutiny arrangements of each individual authority.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor FD. Any other questions? No. I'm actually looking somewhere in the documentation, and I think it's the Joint Committee Agreement and Constitution. It does refer to the setup being on the 1st of April 2021. Well, clearly that date has yet to be agreed because we passed that date, so it won't be retrospective. It will be at a date to be agreed, and I assume it will be something of the order of something like September, around that time. But September. Let's go for autumn, and then that covers.
Yes, I think that's right, Councillor Wotton. The decisions are taken by each individual council, so when all councils have signed up to this, then the joint committee will be capable of being properly constituted.
Okay, if there's no other questions or points to be made, we will, if we may, move to the decision which is outlined at item 1 of the report. Now, 1.1, the executive notes the updates provided in this report. Can I take it that we note it? Noted. Right, okay. Where the recommendations, and I will read them out in a moment, 1.2, 1.3 and 1.4, I'm with your agreement, proposing to take those on block. But if I read them out, and then if there's any questions about taking them on block, we'll come back to that. But 1.2 reads, to formally agree to become a member of the Association of South Essex Local Authorities as seller Joint Committee in accordance with Section 101 of the Local Government Act 1972 to oversee a seller and provide enhanced transparency and accountability in the new delivery stage of its work programmes. 1.3 reads, to approve the governance arrangements of the Joint Committee in accordance with governing documents set out in Appendix 1. And 1.4, to appoint the leader of the Council as their representative on the Joint Committee and to appoint the Deputy Leader as a substitute member as set out in the governing documents. I just want to raise a question with the monitoring officer. Appendix 1 relates to the growth and recovery prospectus. I think it should be Appendix 2. In recommendation 1.3. Right, I just noticed that. So with that minor amendment, members, are you happy to take that on block, or do you want to vote on them separately? Councillor Ward.
Yes, Chairman. Just a question on its 1.4. We're talking about the leader and then the deputy leader as a substitute member. What happens if the deputy leader or the leader cannot attend? What is the situation then?
Right, I'm being told there is no substitute, then it will be tightly defined under the joint.
It's defined, so that's why I'm asking that specific question, as there is an occasion where I have been asked to substitute, and now we're maybe falling foul of this agreement.
I do realise, Councillor Ward, that it's particularly topical because neither I, as the leader, can attend next Thursday's Acela meeting, which is still under the old arrangements of the Memorandum of Understanding, and neither can the deputy leader due to work commitments. So I realise it's topical, but it is extremely rare that that situation will occur, and I think we've just got to accept that in that situation, rare situation, we will not be represented, but meetings will be scheduled probably a year ahead. So it ought to be possible for us to work our timetable
Just wanted
around.
to clarify that with you.
But nevertheless, thank you very much for making the point. Right, moving back to the recommendations 1.2, 1.3, with that minor amendment, and 1.4. Are we happy, first of all, to take it on block?
Agreed.
Yep, okay. And are we also agreeing to those recommendations? Agreed? Lovely, thank you. Right, if we can move on, please, to item number 8. Which is the Parks for Nature initiative and delivery of grounds maintenance. And it's to consider the report of the Assistant Director, Place and Environment, providing a summary of the public consultation on the Parks for Nature initiative and seeking approval for delivery of grounds maintenance in-house with effect from December 2020. And at that point, I will hand over to Councillor Sperring initially, ably supported, I'm sure, by the Assistant Director, Place and Environment. Councillor Sperring.
Thank you, Leader. Well, as it says, this is a two-pronged project, basically. Our contract with our grounds maintenance company, LATCO, expires at the end of December this year, and we need to put in place where we go when that contract expires. And we need to start doing that now. Not only is it necessary to look after the staff if we need to 2P them over, but we also need to sort out various pieces of heavy machinery that will be needed to maintain ground maintenance across the district. That being one aspect, and in the report are various financial assessments of the route ahead, why we should take this service in-house. But it also goes hand in hand with the initiative that we put out with regard to Parks to Nature, which is in support to the Council's policy to try and make the district carbon neutral by 2030. We have issued a consultation. I'm reliably informed that we've had over 400 responses, and 92% of those were in favour of the proposals that we outlined in that consultation document. I think it's fair to say that we have noticed over the last few years the requirements for organised sports event has considerably reduced in the district. And while obviously there is the need for large recreational spaces with people using more and more flat parkland for their recreation, there is also the scope to introduce meadowland and trees. This is a combination that we've been pursuing. We have, I think, been to every ward in conjunction with Mr. Aldridge, our open space officer, to highlight to councillors the initial ideas, what we envisage. You know, if we realise in the short term that there is something not quite right, well then we can amend it. It is grass. We're not talking about concrete and anything over. So we can make modifications. It will be ongoing. And I say that the two items virtually go hand in hand. It also encompasses a bigger project where we will be introducing notice boards, highlighting what the plans are for, how we're doing things. We're also looking to replace benches, waste bins, and put them in more strategic places so that it's better for our residents and more economical for our staff to collect them. I think that's pretty much it, Leader, unless anybody's got any plans, but this is being rolled out as of now by and large, but it will take a year, perhaps 18 months to fully implement, but we do anticipate that there will be amendments needed along the way or adjustments, but that's with regard to the Parks and Nature, and we will also, by the end or by the start of the new year, hopefully have all our people and the necessary equipment in place for our maintenance. That's it, Chair, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Sperring, for that comprehensive report. I'm not sure whether, Assistant Director, you want to add anything to it?
I was just trying to collect my thoughts. I think Councillor Sperring has covered that quite comprehensively. Again, only just to express my thanks to the contribution from various councillors that have met on site to discuss the sort of the finer detail of some of the site plans. But a particularly big thank you to Councillor Sperring as a portfolio holder. I think it's a real testimony to visit every site on foot, walk around every site over in just a month's period. I think it's real dedication, and the support's been greatly appreciated by myself and officers. So thank you. But I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I've just got one. It's I know that when we went round Lodge Ward, we noticed that the residents were very pleased with what was going on. But there may be other areas where there may not be as much contentment. How will we deal with that in feedback if we get that discontentment? Thank you.
I think we will receive some criticism. I don't doubt that. It's new, it's different. People don't always like change. But, as I say, the people that have responded, 92%, supported the project. I think there is a mood in the country that we need to be doing something to try and improve our carbon footprint. And this is a positive step. If we find that there are areas that we need to amend or adjust, we can do it. It will be an ongoing learning curve for both us and residents, but I think ultimately it will be beneficial for everyone. But I do anticipate, yes, there will be some negativity along the line.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Thank you, Councillor Sperring. Any other points? Okay. Well, I just want to endorse the point that the Assistant Director has made. I think the commitment and dedication by you and your officers, along with the portfolio holder and individual councillors, has been commendable. So thank you very much indeed for that. I would like to just stress, and I think it would start to be easy to go through all of these pictures of individual areas and forensically examine them, and that is not what tonight is all about, because that work has been done. But I would appreciate a commitment, and I think you've said it, Councillor Sperring, that we are flexible to community needs where there may be conflict, because what we do not want to do, in my opinion, is find that we compromise good sites that are currently being used for leisure, and we come into conflict with what we're trying to achieve here. So I think there's got to be flexibility if we get a community response to ensure that we try and seek some compromise to achieve both what we're doing here, but at the same time meet the leisure and community needs of the specific community. So we want to actually take the community with us. Councillor Sperring.
Just come back, Leader. The fact that the grounds maintenance will be in-house effectively makes it even easier for us, because it will be Mr. Houghton and Mr. Aldridge who will control and dictate where our staff will be operating and how they will be operating. So all in all, it will be a more joined up approach to what we're doing.
Right. Well, that's great to hear, because clearly this is also about taking residents with us in pursuit of achieving an objective that residents are also very keen for us to achieve. So thank you very much. So if there's no further questions, no, I will turn to the decisions. And once again, I'll read out 1.1, that the comments and summary of the public consultation relating to the Parks for Nature initiative be noted. Is that noted, members?
Noted.
Right, and I'm going to ask you to raise your hands, because I think it helps our officers if we do actually raise our hand rather than just mumble agreed. So we will be taking 1.2 and 1.3 on block, if you agree, and 1.2, that the Parks for Nature initiative be rolled out with change to the grounds maintenance regime as reflected in the proposal set out in Appendix 1, and 1.3, that members approve to deliver grounds maintenance in-house commencing in December 2021, option 1. First of all, do you agree to taking those both together?
Agreed.
Agreed. Right. And can I have your agreement or otherwise? Please raise your hand if you agree. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed, members, for that. We move to item number 9, which is residual waste arrangements, to consider the report of the Assistant Director, Place and Environment, providing details of the current waste tipping arrangements for the Rochford District and setting out the joint procurement arrangement that is to be undertaken alongside neighbouring authorities for the transfer of residual waste during the 2021-22 financial year. And at that point, I think we hand over to you again, Councillor Sperring. You're doing well tonight.
Thank you, Leader. The report that Mr. Houghton has compiled is very comprehensive, but also at times very confusing. So I've asked him to give me a brief note that hopefully, in a very short space, will explain the situation in real layman's terms. And if I may read that out, it may give you a gist of what it's all about. Rochford District Council have a duty to collect the refuse, and we are referred to as a waste collection authority. Essex County Council have the duty to dispose...
Can you just hold on a second, Councillor Sperring? We did ask at the start that mobile phones be put to silent or turned off. Can everyone make sure they are, please? Councillor Sperring.
Thank you. Essex County Council have a duty to dispose of that waste and are known as the Waste Disposal Authority. Essex, as the Waste Disposal Authority, can legally instruct Rochford where to dispose of the refuse. I think these are the critical points that people have got to pick up on. At the moment, Rochford has been instructed to deposit the waste at Basildon. From the 1st of October, we have been told by Essex to take the waste up to a landfill site near Colchester. Essex will provide financial compensation to Rochford for journey. This payment is known as a tipping away payment and is worth just over £23 per tonne. This is set non-negotiable payment. However, driving the refuse trucks twice a day up to Colchester would not be economic or logistically feasible, with half of the collection day potentially being spent travelling along the A12. Usually, in these circumstances, a waste transfer station is used where the waste is dropped off locally, bulked up and then hauled in large lorries, in the case up to landfill in Colchester. Soft marketing would suggest that payments being offered by Essex will cover the cost of such a transfer and haulage facility. It is in this facility that Rochford proposes to secure a joint procurement exercise with Basildon and Castle Point, who will all get their waste up to Colchester. Really, there isn't a viable alternative. But the long and the short of it is that we will work with our Basildon and Castle Point to form a local transfer point, and then that will be hauled up so that basically none of us have taken our refuse trucks up to Basildon, up to Colchester twice a day. And that's it in a nutshell, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Sperring, for simplifying a fairly complex report, as you say. Assistant Director Marcus Houghton, do you wish to add anything?
No, I think it's probably best to try and keep it simple. I mean, my apologies for the complexity of the report. I'd actually rewritten that at least twice and it still confused me. And so I realised probably the best thing to do is I probably should have just written it as I say it. But the details there, if anyone requires it, I think is a key thing as well.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Members, any questions on that item? Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Houghton. Can you confirm that you're comfortable and happy that we'll be able to maintain an efficient waste collection service once this is implemented?
I think we have a better chance of doing so, in that there'll be more certainty over where the waste transfer facilities are. I think some of the challenge we've had for the last sort of 6 to 12 months is there's been a constant change of where we are depositing waste, which causes a challenge for the contractor. So you plan your routes, or you try and optimise your routes as to where you're dropping the waste off to as part of that journey. So if you keep changing where you're dropping the waste off to, then you end up having slack or overload on those routes. So it can only improve the situation.
So that's a yes. Thank you.
Well, it's as close as I'm going to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any other points before we move? Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Leader. I just wondered, this may not be within here, if I may. It's within using waste for energy. Was there any movement from Essex whatsoever on the proposals to actually use that waste rather than landfill and other things, because of the green agenda is looking at waste for energy? Because I think that's quite important going forward with regard to our local plan, if I may say.
I believe Essex are doing so in the longer term, and some of the complexity around this is that they are still contractually obliged to use the MBT plant in Basildon at this time, without going into too much detail. But yes, they are keen to look at different options going forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Right. Well, as the recommendations here are set out as a mixture of noting, I'm going to take them individually so that we go through them. First of all, item or point 1.1, under the decisions, that the executive notes the contents of the report. Noted. 1.2, that a budget of £5,000 be allocated as part of the council's share in jointly appointing external legal services to finalise contract documents in partnership with Basildon and Castle Point Borough Councils to deliver operationally suitable residual waste arrangements from the 1st of October 2021. Can I ask for a show of hands of those in favour? And that is unanimous. And moving on to 1.3, that the proposed procurement route of open procedure with a tender evaluation based on 90% price and 10% quality scoring criteria be noted. Is that noted, members? Noted. And 1.4, that it be noted that the recommendations for award of tender will be presented to the Executive in September. Again, is that noted, members?
It's noted.
Thank you. Right, we move on to item 10, Section 106 Quarterly Briefing, July 2021, and that is to consider the report of the Assistant Director, Place and Environment, summarising the Council's position on Section 106 contributions as at the 1st of July 2021. And Councillor Ward, are you going to introduce it, or do we go straight to Assistant Director?
I will actually introduce it. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Ward.
I think this is a very, very important report because it really does emphasise the fact that we are looking to audit seriously the 106 money that we actually collect from various, how can I put it, contributors. We have on there those items that are selected for ourselves, that we will use, and we have the NHS. The NHS is responsible for how it collects, and that's one of the things that we will be requiring and looking into in the course of time with our officers to ensure that that money is taken and where it goes. There was a query that was on this particular document, which was one of the last items, Saxon Business Park in Rochford. Now, before I actually bring anything through, we have some announcements, I believe, that we'd like to make on that, and I'd like to hand over to Mr. Houghton, who I believe has some updates on that because it's due on the 1st of August 2021, which is quite imminent. Sorry, September.
Thank you. So we are actually in a meeting with Southend Council, so they've actually drawn up some plans which they'd like to take forward to put in the cycle routes across the Cherry Orchard Way. So it's just in the nick of time in terms of the budget. I think that they were keen to see it being delivered rather than take the money back. So I think that there's a genuine kind of spirit of cooperation between the two of us. But I'll be able to report back in a little bit more detail on the matter to the portfolio holder of planning and the ward members, I'm hoping next week. But what I understand is that there will be a definite project put forward. I believe it's going to cost more than the 100,000, but my understanding is that Southend Borough Council are willing to pick up the additional cost to ensure that it's delivered. So in that sense, the 100,000 will be well spent, if that makes sense. Thank you.
It does make sense. Thank you very much indeed. And I'm pleased about that because the date bothered me a little bit when I saw the 1st of September. So, and to hand back 100,000 just didn't sit too comfortably with me. So I'm delighted to hear that news. That's good. Right, members, any questions on the report before you? No, okay, if there's no questions. Now, all I really want to say is, and I'm very, very pleased that Councillor Ward and well, that gave us all a surprise and a shock, didn't it? Woke us up. I'm extremely pleased that in conjunction with the Assistant Director, Councillor Ward has set out, it makes it look as if it's a regular quarterly report, but this is actually the first of quarterly reporting on Section 106 monies, because I believe it is right that quarterly we go through, as part of our regular governance, where our Section 106 monies is, the progress and what is actually happening to it. The next stage of the process, Councillor Ward, is to make sure that following planning agreements, we go through a process to make sure that members are kept fully up to speed with the negotiation, because my ambition is that 106 money should rightly be spent within our district to enhance the benefit for residents. So often 106 monies can be spirited away and we never quite know where it's gone. So I really welcome this report, delighted with its production, delighted it's going to come back to us quarterly, and any questions in the intervening time, I know the Assistant Director will be delighted to help members with. Thank you very much indeed. So if, with your agreement, we move to the decision, and that is simply that the quarterly position on Section 106 contributions held as at July 2021 be noted. We note that?
Happy with that.
Thank you very much. Right, we turn now to item number 11, which is the Council Projects Programme Management Office. And we're going to consider the report of the Acting Managing Director providing an update on the Connect programme, Asset Delivery programme and the Beagle Event programme. So I've got to turn to my left now to look to the Acting Managing Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wootton. This is the regular quarterly report of the Council's Projects Programme Management Office and the 3 projects that are within its scope. As you've identified, the Connect programme, which is the Council's Cultural and Transformation programme, the Asset Development programme and the Beagle Event project. As set out in the report, in terms of the Connect programme, we've made significant progress around the early stages of the foundation and discovery phase, and that means that officers within the council have identified opportunities for interventions that will improve productivity and the digital outcomes for customers, and to streamline services, reduce duplication and reduce manual handling. The next phase of the Connect programme would be to bring an Invest to Save proposition to this executive in September and to ask this executive to make a decision regarding the investment in that business case. And that is intended to centre around a digital implementation of a customer portal which will allow 24/7 access to services via web connectivity and to enable customers therefore to access transactional business at their leisure and without having to come through the customer services switchboard. The asset programme, the asset delivery programme continues as per its existing programme. The 2 stop-go decision points remain programmed in for the autumn of this year and for February of 2022. Following the feedback from the public relating to the Mill Arts and Event Centre, officers have been reviewing the proposals with our development partner. That work is being progressed and remains subject to commercial negotiation. And when that work is complete, members will be brought back to council for further decision. In the meantime, however, we continue to plan for the programme as it currently stands, and the decant subgroup has been set up to lead the key tasks for timely handover in the event that a decision is made to indeed handover, but of course that doesn't prejudge or determine any decision that the council might make. The Beagle project has unfortunately been a victim of the pandemic and was due to take place, as you know, last year. Under the restrictions have also meant that it's incapable of taking place this year. We have spoken, the portfolio holder for tourism and myself, about reconfiguring the Beagle project for a date probably next year, and in coalition with parish and town councils, and I hope to bring some suggestions forward for that later on in this calendar year. There's nothing else further from me, Councillor Wootton.
Thank you. Members, any questions? No? Okay. Then we'll turn to the decision being recommended, and it's a noting decision again. 1.1 in the report, that updates be noted on the Council's 3 projects, the Connect programme, and the Asset Delivery Programme, both gold projects, and the Beagle Event project, a silver project. Is that noted?
Noted.
Thank you, members. Right, we turn to item 12, which is business rates write-off. Right, we're going to consider the report of the Assistant Director of Resources seeking approval to write off a sum in respect of business rates owed by Bounce Village Limited.
Thank you, Councillor Whitton. Yeah, the report hopefully is fairly self-explanatory, and I'm not intending to go through it in detail, but the decision that's being recommended is that the sum of £26,838.50 in respect of business rates owed by Bounce Village Limited at 12A Purdy Ways, Rochford, is written off. The council has exhausted all its avenues in terms of pursuing that debt, and the company is now in insolvency proceedings, and the council has been ranked as an unsecured creditor in that claim, but is unlikely to recover those monies. The council's direct share of the write-off would be £10,735.40, and the council has already made provision for that within its financial accounts, so it won't impact the general fund for this financial year. So really I'm just looking for executive's approval for that decision. Thank you.
Thank you to Naomi Lucas, Assistant Director of Resources. Thank you. Any questions before we move to a vote? Nope. Okay. Well, I will move to the decision being recommended at item 1, 1.1, that the sum of £26,838.50 in respect of business rates owed by Bounce Village Limited in respect of 12A Purdy's Way, Rochford, is written off. Could I ask for a show of hands in agreement? And that is unanimous. Thank you. We move then to item 13, which is again business rates write-off, and we turn once again to the Assistant Director of Resources, Naomi Lucas.
Thank you, Councillor Whitton. So this report is similar in nature. So yeah, the decision being recommended is that a sum of £139,866.11 in outstanding business rates is written off in respect of the ratepayer known as KS Rochford. Again, the council has explored all its avenues in terms of pursuing that debt and has engaged with specialist legal advice to ensure that we have tried to recover that, but unfortunately there doesn't appear to be a way that we will recover those monies now. Again, the council's share of that write-off would be 40%, which equates to £55,946.44. And again, it's been provided for within the council's accounts, so there will be no direct impact on the general fund for this financial year. So again, I was seeking executive approval for that write-off.
Thank you very much indeed, Naomi. Again, any questions? No. We go to decision being recommended at 1.1 that the sum of £139,866.11 in outstanding business rates is written off in respect of the ratepayer known as K/S Rochford. Can I have a show of hands, please, in agreement? And again, that is unanimous. Thank you, members. Right. Members of the public, first of all, my very sincere thanks to you all for coming here this evening. We've come to the end of the business that we can debate with you at present. The remaining report, and there is just one further item, contains exempt information, and I would therefore ask that you now leave the meeting. But before you actually leave the meeting, I will just put that formally to members, just to make sure that we're not respectfully asking you to leave and all members vote against asking you to leave. But it is hereby resolved, and we're talking about item 14 here, it is hereby resolved that under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 1 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Act. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Right, at that point, I'm afraid I've got to ask you to leave. Just for the point of clarity, other members may stay. Members may stay.
Adrian, you can stay.
Yeah, I need to go home and have some tea.
Go.
Good to see you.
Councillor Eves, you're most welcome to stay.
Yeah, I've got to go home and have some dinner. Thank you.
Okay. Right, we turn to item number 15. Yeah, everyone's gone, haven't they? Item number 15, and that's business rates and council tax write-off, to consider the exempt report of the Assistant Director of Resources in respect of writing off a sum in respect of business rates and council tax. And we turn once again, I believe, to you, Naomi, as Assistant Director of Resources. Naomi.
Thanks again, Councillor Whitton. Yeah, again, this report is similar to the previous two, the difference being that it relates to an individual member of the public, so that's the reason it's been taken in private and confidential. There is two amounts that are being sought to be written off in respect to that individual. Firstly, £47,612.77 in respect of business rates, and also £13,849.33 in respect of council tax. These amounts relate to a Mr. Hamish Mommy, who has accrued these debts over the period of the 11th of December 2011 to the 8th of April 2020. Again, the council has made all reasonable efforts to try and recover those amounts, but has unfortunately been unsuccessful. So again, the council's share of the business rates element will be 40%, which equates to £19,045.10, and the council's share of the council tax element will be £1,731.16. And again, these amounts have been provided for within the council's accounts, and there will be no direct impact on the general fund for this financial year. So again, seeking executive's approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Any questions from members of the executive? Councillor Efty.
Just out of interest, I know it's your recommendation, I don't disagree with it, but what happens if we didn't agree to write them off?
So essentially, we could keep them as on our balance sheet as a debt owing to the council, and just kind of postpone that for a future date. But it wouldn't go away. It would just sort of carry on sitting there indefinitely until such time as we either recovered the money or chose to write it off. But I think it's reasonable for the council, after this amount of time and the efforts it's taken, to make that decision to write it off. Otherwise, we just end up building up more and more bad debt, which obviously then has an impact at some future date.
A very good question, Councillor Efty. Right, no other questions? No, we will turn to decision being recommended at item 1.1, that the sum of £47,612.77 in respect of business rates and the sum of £13,849.33 in respect of council tax are written off. Members, can I have a show of hands, please? If you agree, and you do agree. So that's unanimous. Members, at 8:25, that completes the business for the executive meeting tonight. Can I thank you for your attendance? Can I thank visiting members for their attendance? Can I thank officers for their attendance? Now I'm going to spoil the show because it's the first time that executive members and senior officers have been able to actually get together.